we're here to listen to you, Scott. I'm curious because, like, this stuff is fairly new to me in the grand scheme of things. As far as
Fuck,
like,
who's it not new to? Let's be honest.
Who
Who
I'll
talks about
take that.
this shit?
Yeah.
Nobody.
Yeah, I mean, like, because it's always been, even when I grew up in a conservative worldview, it was still this kind of left-right dichotomy, and here the anarchists are kind of saying, no, it's not even about that. Like, check out all this other stuff that's kind of out there, and it's fascinating to dissect again, because with someone like yourself, how do you come across like the knowledge for the kind of histories of like anarchist movements and stuff? Like where does that come from? Because obviously it's not being taught in schools, it's not being taught in sort of mainstream institutions. Is it all just kind of from books? Is it just from conversations? Where does this community lie?
Well, I think it's approaching everything with curiosity first and foremost. That's the thing. Is like, I have to be curious about it, not because because I like to solve problems. Even if I don't have the answer, I like to think in complexity about how things overlap and how they engage. Even if I'm wrong about it, where I change it over the years, I still want to engage in it. So that's the premise of where I come from. The other thing is, and I've said it many times, and I'm sorry it's a fucking religious phrase, but I want to alleviate suffering. I do want to alleviate suffering for for non-human animals and humans and the environment while I'm on this fucking planet. And I'm really, and so that's the approach to it. And even within anarchy, I'm an outlier generally. I'm a well-respected outlier within anarchist ideas, but I am an outlier in general ideas because there's a lot of ideology in anarchism too, and I just don't subscribe to it anymore. After being in those subcultures for a long time.
Yeah, and I can say too.
I want to say too that in personally, like stuff that has affected me, like, I mean, prisons and drugs have run throughout my whole fucking life. Like all my early life was shaped by that stuff. My family members going to prison, drugs, and either people dying from drug overdoses or going to prison from drugs and stuff. And so those things shape me for injustices. Looking at TV and reruns and like Leave It to Beaver was like, who the fuck are these people? I have no idea who these people are. There's nothing in my experience that told me that.
Yeah.
And growing up working class poor, like I had to work to do everything, because even though I've had some privilege of being a white-skinned person, economically, I still had to fucking work on it myself. I'm not saying like bootstraps or any of that shit. There was tons of support along the way when people could, but these are all things that shape how I got here. Everything in our history brings us to this moment. Personally, politically, geographically, everything that we don't even think about brings us to this moment.
Yeah.
And so every moment's a new moment. And so I just learned to look at them as explorations.
Yeah. I think that's good for anybody. Like the joke amongst the atheist community is it's like herding a group of cats. Like we can't. Half of us can't even agree on what atheism even is. And we all have different. Yeah. We and all of us. I mean, you've got atheists amongst the entire political spectrum. We're kind of characterized as being more left wing, but I've talked to enough people now to know that's not the case for everybody. So yeah, it is. And I'm comfortable where I'm at with the labels that I have, but like I'm still changing stuff. Like I recently took up veganism. Now I'm trying that out, and like that's a new experience for me. And I hope that like 5 years from now, I'm gonna have some new labels for myself that I didn't have before, because I'm figuring out life as I'm going along. So, but
really, we all are. I mean, that's the truth. Like, I was vegan and vegetarian. I was one of the people who created the whole animal liberation movement and around the world. I'm not going to lie. Like, I'm not saying I'm a major player, but I was one of the people who did it. I was vegan and vegetarian for 30 years until more recently. So, and I had to face police for this. I had to face being a terrorist for this, for you to be able to come in and go like, I want to be a vegan. That was a fucking unheard of idea when I started it. So what I've learned is that I like to shift culture far more than I like to, and I want it's more important to shift culture than it is to try to legislate something or to get a corporation to only do the right thing, because culture shift is the basis. If people like myself had never done this work, you never would have become a vegan. It's fine. I'm not even trying to claim. I'm not even trying to take credit for it. But there's also unintended outcomes, consequences, and impacts of that. Because veganism, like the reason I'm not vegan or vegetarian anymore, is because not because I think that animals don't suffer. I still believe that non-human animals suffer and that we need to eliminate factory farming and all of that stuff. That's still very, very, very important. But the main reason is because it became another subculture within capitalism. It became another economic structure of a lifestyle for people to do within capitalism. And I disagree with that. And it's also, and veganism is full of racism and misogyny and homophobia and all of that stuff. And it always has been. And to create collective liberation needs to be wider than that.
Wow. Okay. I would definitely want to talk about that. I want to talk about that, but like I have other callers that want to talk to you as well. So let's go ahead and go to the
I knew we should talk longer.
I know, man. Like, listen, Scott, you're in Austin. Like, we got to chat some more sometime. I'm serious. You're a fascinating guy.